Welcome everyone back to my channel. This week's gruesome murder is going to be about the notorious Scissor sisters. Now, when I was researching the Scissor sisters, this story really wrenched my stomach out. I have been researching for a few days now, and I had to stop here and there because the details that they give in this story, the things that these women did, are just so horrendous, so grim, and I really don't know how anybody could do what these two sisters have done. Linda and Charlotte Mahal are famously known in Dublin, Ireland, met the headlines several times for dismembering their mother's boyfriend, Farah Noor. They cut his body up into 7 body parts. I'm going to give you a background bio of the whole family, just so you can get an understanding of where these people are coming from. So Linda and Charlotte Mahal had a very violent childhood. They grew up, not only the violence was on them, but they witnessed their mother being beat up all the time by their father, John Mahal. Grew up in a working class community. They were unemployed. There was drugs and alcohol in the family. Linda Mahal, at the time of the murder, was 30 years old. She has 4 children. She was unemployed, dropped out of school early. Again, drugs and alcohol were still with her. Charlotte Mahal, at the time of the murder, was 21 years old. And she, again, still had drug and alcohol issues. She was a prostitute as well. She was no strangers by the police. The Garda is what they call it in Ireland, but I'm going to be using the word police, okay? She was no stranger to the police. She would do small-time criminal acts. So the victim, Farah Noor, I want to just give you a quick background about him as well, just so you don't feel too bad for him. I don't know, you guys, you feel what you want to feel. Okay, Farah Noor was not a good guy. He was a very, very violent man. His bios are that he came from Kenya, Africa. He left behind a wife and children, okay? He paid human traffickers to bring him to Dublin, Ireland, where he became a citizen. While he was here as a citizen, he had said that his wife back in Kenya had died along with the children. So that gave him free range to be able to date whoever he wanted. In that time, while he was there in Dublin, he actually impregnated 2 young 16-year-olds, one of which was special needs. He abused them so much that they had to be hospitalized. Back in 2003, that's when he met the Scissor sisters' mother, Kathleen Mahal. Now, in their relationship, that was extremely abusive as well. I mean, viciously abusive. He broke Kathleen's ribs, broke her wrists, gave her concussions, sent her to the emergency room on multiple occasions. I want to insert John Mahal into this story because he does play a part. John Mahal is the father of Charlotte and Linda and the husband of Kathleen. They were all living together, and yes, he was still married to Kathleen. But even so, Kathleen had a boyfriend, the victim, Farah Noor. Now, Farah Noor had moved into the home in 2003. So this was happening for about 2 years altogether. The fact that Kathleen Mahal moved her boyfriend, Farah Noor, into the household caused a lot of arguments between everyone. The kids didn't know which parent to side with, it was that type of thing. But okay, let's get on with the day that Farah Noor got murdered. So this happened March 2005. Linda and Charlotte decided that they were going to meet Farah and Kathleen down at the boardwalk. They got a little bit of money and they decided they were going to party. So they had bought rum and coke. While they were drinking openly while walking down the street. They started at O'Connell in Dublin Center and they walked down to the boardwalk. Linda and Charlotte had stepped aside because they wanted to take some ecstasy pills. Kathleen approached them and she decided that she was going to take some ecstasy as well. So they were all buzzing. The only person who didn't take any pills was Farah. Okay, but anyways, they made it back to the house. They were still partying, still drinking, still popping some more ecstasy pills. Farah Noor was like in a really bad mood, as he usually is, very mean and violent, his attitude. So Kathleen didn't like that. She was just like, you know, we never get to do this hardly, so you're not going to kill our buzz. So what Kathleen decided to do, she crushed up an ecstasy pill, put it in Noor's drink, and served it to him. Okay, so now they're all on the same buzz. Things were going pretty great at that moment, but Farah started hitting on Linda. He put his arm around her, tried to grab her from the waist, try to smooth talk her, and Charlotte, the sister, was like, hey, you know, get off of my sister. Farah had ignored that and whispered into Linda's ear and said, you know, we are creatures of the night, you're just like your mama. And he tried to rape her right there in front of everybody. When the mother had seen this, the mother came charging after Farah and started yelling and screaming at him and hitting him. But Farah had turned around and violently hit Kathleen. And he did that again and again and again. Kathleen was yelling at the top of her lung, he's gonna kill me, he's gonna kill me, oh my God, he's gonna kill me. At that point, Charlotte had ran into the kitchen and she got a Stanley knife. Now, those Stanley knives that are they're like box cutters, okay? Charlotte had approached Farah Noor, took the box cutter and sliced Farah's throat. Noor somehow managed to get on his feet and he ran into one of the back bedrooms. As Noor was like really bewildered, he had fallen over and he whacked his head on one of the bunk beds. He fell down and he went unconscious. He was still breathing. Now Linda went after him. She followed him into the bedroom. While she was doing that, she grabbed a hammer and started smashing Noor over the head, repetitively smashing. And while Linda was doing that, Charlotte had went back into the kitchen and got a regular steak knife from the kitchen. And she came into the bedroom and started brutally stabbing Noor repetitively over and over again, 27 times. The last words that Farah spoke was to yell for Kathleen by calling her by her nickname, Katie. Upon hearing this, Charlotte kept on stabbing, and Linda took up the hammer again and started beating his face repetitively until he stopped breathing. He was dead. Okay, now you guys, now Farah now dead. Linda and Charlotte still extremely high on ecstasy. I think that they were like really tripping when they did this, you guys. Linda and Charlotte dragged Farah into the bathroom, and that is when they started cutting him up. They cut him up by taking all different kinds of knives in the kitchen, and oh my God, I feel like so sick about this. They took the hammer and they started smashing the bones to try to break them, and it took all night for them to dismember him into multiple pieces. At some point, Kathleen had said, there was a time that he had raped me, and Linda had said, well, he's never going to rape anybody ever again. And she took his penis and sliced it off. It was later said, oh my God, it was later said that Linda had described the foul stench that was in the air, but they still hacked away at that body. So while Linda was trying to remove the head, she had put a towel over his face because Noor kept on looking at her. Yes, he was dead, but his eyes were open, and she was weirded out by that. After the deed was done, the house was covered in utter bloody, gory mess. They knew that they had to clean all of this mess up, and they knew that they were going to need help. So guess who they called? They called John, their father. John had came to the house and he could not believe his eyes. He had said that he didn't want anything to do with this mess and he left. But upon him thinking, he had came back to the house, and so what he did is he took all of the clothes, the towels, everything, and he put them in a bin. So we later find out that he had put the bin in a nearby pond. Meantime, Linda and Charlotte, they were cleaning up the bits and pieces of skin and cartilage and throwing it down the toilet. They were taking duffel bags and any kind of bags that they can get their hands on, and they put the head in the bag. They also put the body parts in several bags. There were 7 body parts altogether, and they tied them all up. Okay, you guys, so you're never going to believe this. Charlotte and Linda took the body parts, they're all packed up in a bag, and they took a bus to Talat, so they can expose the body parts in the Royal Dublin Canal. They had to take several trips. When they had put all the body parts into the Royal Dublin Canal, the only thing that was left was the head. There was a lot of fighting and arguing between the sisters, and they didn't know what they were doing. They were totally freaking out. So Charlotte, tired of fighting, she dropped to her hands and knees and she started digging with her own hands a hole so they can put the head in there. I don't know, there was a lot of confusion. There was a lot of confusion. And because of that, they didn't bury the head properly. The bag was still busting out from the earth. Okay, so when Linda and Charlotte got back to the house, they scrubbed that house down like, oh my god, they used bleach, they did everything. They cleaned it so good, because later on when I talk about the police, they said that they did an extremely good job with cleaning that house. Linda was freaking out. She was freaking out about how they left that head, how the bag was protruding from the ground. So what she decided to do was go back down to the Royal Dublin Canal and she dug the head up. So she took the head and she went down to the Dublin mountain. When she got there, she just opened up some rum and she was drinking that profusely. It is said that she spent the entire day with that head. She was just really emotionally distraught about everything that she had done. It was really getting to her. She was feeling really just really bad. She talked to the head. She was saying that this should have never been you. This should have been my mother. After she spent the entire day with the head, she knew that she had to bury the head again. But she knew that this head could not be recognized. So again, she had a hammer and she smashed the face in repetitively once again before she buried the head. She buried the head and then she left the scene. I'm going to insert this part here. There's just no other appropriate place to put it. But you might be asking about where did the penis go? The penis was never found. It is said that they threw the penis in a rubbish bin along the way somewhere. Days are going by. Linda and Charlotte, they were hyped up on ecstasy and rum and any kind of drug that they could get. They could not bear knowing what they did to this Farah Noor. The smell still filled their nostrils. The memory was like a picture show. They just couldn't get it out of their head. And Linda was the one who was really having a hard time with it. Now, Linda would get extremely sick, and I think the reason why that is because Linda was pregnant. The mom and Charlotte, they wanted Linda to get an abortion. They were going to, take her down to the city. But Linda didn't want to have the abortion. She didn't want to go with anybody. She was just sick and distraught in her room. So Kathleen and Charlotte decided to go down to the Royal Dublin Canal. And guess what was happening down there? The guards had found the body. They were actually pulling the body parts out of the canal. The body parts were discovered by this one man who called the guards, okay? The body has been sitting in the canal for multiple days. Yes, other people had seen it, but they had said, oh, we thought it was a dummy. They didn't think it was real, like it was a hoax, it was this, whatever, you know, but nobody called the guards. Only one man did. So that's when the guards came, the police, okay? The guards came and they were fishing out the body parts. And Kathleen and Charlotte watched all this from the bridge above. Of course, the body was brought down to the morgue. At the morgue, the body parts were sewn all together. That's how they do it. I know this is really grotesque, but that's what they do for forensic reasons. They were trying to figure out like what happened to this man that they have no identity for at this time. They thought that perhaps this body was cut up because of a ritual, which is called the torso and the tams. But of course, it wasn't a ritual. Now, the torso still had bits of the shirt left on the body, and it was a soccer ball shirt. So they took a similar soccer ball shirt and they were showing it around town. There was one guy, a friend of Farah, who stepped forward and said, I think I know that man. And plus he hadn't seen his friend in a few days. And then there's this torso, and then there's this soccer ball jersey. So he just put two and two together. So now the police have an identity. Another person who stepped forward, now remember earlier when I was talking about how Farah Noor impregnated a 16-year-old girl, right? She had stepped forward and she had said that I believe that this is the father of my unborn child. They had taken some DNA from the child and boom, 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 it was a match. Now they know it was Farah Noor for sure. And knowing that it was Farah Noor, they knew directly who to go to talk to next. The girlfriend. Right? Okay, so the guards knew at this point that the Mahals had something to do with this because rumor had it that they were dating. So they went down to the apartment and nobody was there. Family had moved out. So what they decided to do is take some forensic of the apartment, and sure enough, there was like blood in the cracks of the floor. It was really, really insane. As soon as they saw the blood, they knew right away that they have their murderers. So they went after Kathleen and they questioned her. Okay, so when Kathleen was questioned, she right away fled. She left. She went to England. And that left Charlotte and Linda to pick up the pieces. Now, Linda was the one who was having a really, really hard time. She was having such a hard time. She couldn't get the smell out of her nostrils. She couldn't get the picture of what she did out of her head. She was sick. She was literally sick. And she was so sick that she sliced her wrist. She wanted to kill herself. She was in the hospital, and that's when her other sister Mary and John, her father, talked Linda into going to the guards. The guards found Linda at the hospital because they called them, and she told everything. Charlotte later says, no, my sister Linda, she's lying. Boom. It all came out. She knew that they were all busted, and so this is where it ends. In the end, the outcome was Linda Mahal. She got 15 years for manslaughter, and her sister Charlotte Mahal got life. The mom only got 5 years of prison time, and the dad, he hung himself. He hung himself because he couldn't live with knowing what his family had done and what he had done himself. And that is a story of the Scissor sisters. Man, what do you think about this story? Isn't it crazy? It was crazy. It turned me inside out. It was really, really horrible, but okay. So until next time, you guys, I hope that you enjoyed the story. But until next time, mwah, mwah. Love everybody.